Hello everybody, Larry Young here again with another segment of OLaMan Living Life with Purity. And today I want to talk about floods and horses. So what do floods and horses have to do with one another? Well, normally not much of anything. But if we go to the book of Revelation, chapter 12, verse 15, it talks about a flood. And the flood is used as a powerful symbol of the relentless persecution and tribulation that good, or in this case, the church, endures at the hands of the devil, or Satan himself. And so this sort of flooding is not upon one particular denomination over another, so it doesn't affect, one Christian group more than another. So it's not a Catholic thing. But a lot of people always point to the Catholic Church about these things. But this is more about a battle of good and evil. And like I've always said before, God builds, God creates, God lifts up, the devil destroys and puts down. So the flood in this instance represents the overwhelming and malevolent nature of the persecution. So it's overwhelming, and it just wants to rip you a new one. This is what the flood is about. It has no care for you, your existence, your continuation. You need to be ended. You need to cease, is what the goal of the flood is in Revelation. It just represents this ongoing conflict between good and evil, and the ultimate reality here is we all know that good will win in the end. But to tell you the truth, it's going to be a real bitch kitty of a fight getting there. So I'll have a little cup of coffee here before I continue on. I kind of want to show off my cool new cup I got from one of the viewers out there. She's down in the Great Smoky Mountains and sent me this cool cup from the Great Smoky Mountains. But I don't think she knew that on the back was a black bear. Now, there's no black bears here, but everyone used to call me Bear when I was growing up. So I thought that was really cool. So I'm going to keep that cup and going to drink it in front of you from time to time. Okay, so we talked about the flood and the implications of that and what it sort of represents, metaphorically and physically. So let's talk about horses. Well, in the book of Revelation, it also talks about the four horses. And the four horses were different colors. These weren't your typical brown, chestnut-colored horses that one would find on a gentle farm someplace. And in the book of Revelation, we had a white horse, we had a red horse, we had a black horse, and then there was the pale horse. And the white horse symbolized the duality of victory and deception. Now, how those two got put together in one category, I really don't know. Got to look more into that, but how it could have a dual nature of victory and deception going on, I don't know, but it seems peculiar. The red horse signifies the violence and upheaval of war. We can understand the red, with the blood and the shedding of blood and things like that. The black horse illustrates the suffering of famine. And the pale horse represents the ultimate inevitability of death. Now, since we can't do anything about the inevitability of death, death is a bargain we make when we take our first breath when we're born. So we can't really do anything about the pale horse. But the other three certainly can be affected, I think, by man's own determination and choices and free will. So you have to be careful about the victories and deceptions, and making sure that you're not fighting for the wrong things, or you're not being led down a way that isn't truthful, is a truthful and beautiful path that God might lay out. The red horse, obviously the violence of upheaval of war, the blood nature of that, kind of scary and very sobering. The black horse, that brought on by famine. Man can't do a whole hell of a lot about famines except try to prepare and have a backup plan, storing food, things like this, provisions, making sure you've got some in case there's an emergency type of thing. The kind of stuff your mom always taught you to do before, not different than wearing clean underwear in case you're in an accident, for God's sakes. The worst thing that could ever happen to your mother is to find out that her child was checked into a hospital and had scratched up underwear somehow. The things we take with us out of childhood. But this all came to mind when I was watching news reports of the protests in New York City yesterday. Yesterday was October the 7th. It was a 2-year anniversary of the attack on the citizens, I should say, in Israel by the Hamas terrorists who came across the border and murdered, nearly 1,300 people, baked the babies, just hideous stuff. And the world seems to forget a lot of that, and that kind of pisses me off. It should piss you off too. But while these people were running through the streets of New York, crying for support for Hamas and Palestine, what they were reenacting was the October 7th event of 2023, when these people were all murdered in Israel. That was called the Al-Aqsa flood, Alaqsa flood. So the Hamas and Palestinian terrorists, these Islamists, were using this flood arrangement, this flood order, as part of their marching orders here. They were told to flood Israel. They were told to flood the world with their Hamas hate for Jews and the West. So, in recreating through their marches and this mania about this Al-Aqsa flood yesterday, the chanters were going through New York City, and the announcements that were put out on social media said, "Flood New York City for Gaza." Now, when they were saying flood New York City, they weren't talking about let the water in from the ocean or anything like that. They weren't talking about trying to clean the streets of all the urine and poop that's out there in the New York City streets. No, they were talking about their metaphorical flood, to flood the world, to eliminate all non-Islamic followers. And they're starting in these cities. And people like you and me and others with our tax dollars are helping them. This is messed up. You want to see how this all comes in together on one flood? And I haven't been able to find a flag that says this, but this is what's being added to a number of the Palestinian flags, is the call to flood the world. Here's a picture of the Palestinian flag. White, red, black, pale. They're all in there. It's coming. It's happening. Do you know who you are? In the meantime, I love you, and I'll be back.